Okay, giving all the praises to Yahweh Bashem Awashai, Bashem Rakah, Kodash. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father. Yahweh Shai is the name of the one who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, who is a so-called black man according to the King James Version Bible. Like I said, all the praises goes to Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai, excuse me. Excuse me, Salakio. Alright, so that's what that means. Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai is Yahweh in the name Yahweh Shai. I give double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone who taught me this truth for the spirit, inspiration, and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, saluting all of the brothers and sisters. This is 2 Esdras 9 verse 1. He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, right? And when thou seest part of the signs past which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. So there's certain signs that will indicate the end of this time, the end of this age, the end of this rulership, which is being ruled and governed by the wicked elites of the so-called Europeans, the so-called white man, or the Amalekites, the Scamalakites, which are the JOOSs, the small hats, the big-nosed people, whatever you want to call them, the men in black. It's ruled by them, the chief house of Satan, the Edomites, so you can understand. So it says there's certain signs that will indicate that the end of this man's time. So it says, therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. Right, so it says that there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, and that's the point of this lesson. Uproars of the people in the world. When you go to West Africa, pretty much the continent itself, you have a vast proportion of our people in the continent of Africa, in South Africa, West Africa, East Africa, Central Africa, and but pretty much for the most part, they've created different cultures, and they've been colonized in certain areas by the French, by the Portuguese, by the British, so forth and so on. And what's happening is there's a lot of coups, military coups, over there in West Africa. Well, not a lot of, but here, there, and certain places in Niger, in Gabon, you have military coups. So these are uproars of the people. Why? Because the presidents of these certain countries are sellouts. They're actually Masons. When you look at it, they're in league with the West. They're puppets for the West. They carry out the biddings of the West. They keep their people oppressed, and they give all the resources of their countries to the West in exchange for bribes, because that's what they do. They're bribed into doing the bidding of the West. Okay, they give them money to sustain themselves whilst their own people are pretty much in poverty, right? So let me get this. Salakio. Sec. This is right. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 20, verse 29. Presents and gifts blind the eyes of the wise, and stop up his mouth that he cannot reprove. Right. So presents and gifts blind the eyes of the wise. Obviously, we can use that scripture to show that these leaders from amongst our people, these so-called presidents, governmental leaders, are bribed. They're bribed into doing the bidding of the wicked, right? And now the people are rising up. They're uproaring because they're tired of the oppression. They're seeing through the smoke screen, and they can see that their governmental leaders do not have the interests of the people. So therefore, the military is beginning to take over and overthrow the presidential leaders. Even in Cameroon, I believe is President Paul Biya, if I'm pronouncing his name right, Paul Biya. I believe where he's living at right now is in Switzerland. So he's not even in Cameroon, right, governing his people. He's in a different a part of the world in Europe. And pretty much the military has now taken over Cameroon. And the president, Paul Biya, he's MIA. He's missing in action now. Why? Because he's making an excuse saying he's not gonna return back to Cameroon because the air is polluted. Which sounds like, it smells like BS, right? To me, it just sounds like he's afraid of the people, that the people might overthrow him. And certain other presidents amongst our people in the continent of Africa, they also fear for their office, that they might be overthrown by their militaries. The president of Uganda, I think his name is Mussolini, if I'm pronouncing his name right. Because a lot of these presidents, they've been in power for too damn long, 40 plus years, 50 plus years. And the youth, it's trending now. Coups and uprising of the people's sedition is trending across the continent, right? So this pretty much what's happening right now. Salakio. Listen. Proverbs. This is Proverbs chapter 29. Verse 2, obviously, it says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people are mourning. Right, so that's what you're seeing right now, uproars of the people are mourning because they're tired of the oppression. Our people down there in the continent of Africa, they have the resources, and they're starting to read that France, right, France is taking the piss. France has been taking the mickey out of our people in the continent. Ever since they colonized certain parts of Africa, going back to the Berlin contract, I believe, that was formulated in a 19 something, man. The Berlin Council, where pretty much all the European powers congregated in Berlin, Germany, to decipher who is going to have which part of Africa. They pretty much divided Africa amongst themselves. Okay? So you had Germany, you had, Britain, you had France, right? All these different European Edomite nations carving up Africa among themselves. So pretty much our people now, they're waking up to that. Listen, we're tired of the oppression. We don't need France. We have the resources. We don't need you. France needs them. If you look, France will quickly become a third world country if this continues. Right? So that goes to show you that Esau's rulership, Esau's power is pretty much based upon Jake. Right? If Jake decides to say no, what can Esau do? Esau's going to have to now fight out of desperation to maintain control. And we're seeing that Esau, in France, Macron sent his ambassador to Niger, and the Nigerians, they want this ambassador to get the hell out. But Macron is saying, listen, we're not going to leave. We're not going to leave militarily, and I'm not going to remove my ambassador. So that shows you how much France needs Niger. Man. Right? See what I'm saying? So what's going to happen now? Now, if the people react and decide to take military action and to commit violence, that might cause the French, that's their justification for sending troops to invade Niger. Right? There's all this malarkey going on in West Africa. And really, the the Esau wants control. He wants the resources. Without the resources, his dominions goes kaput. But Jacob's rebelling. Obviously, word is that the military leader of Gabon, that's what we've seen, has overthrown the president himself of Gabon. Even he himself is working for Macron. So you have news reports on that saying that even he's a down sellout. So but there might have to be another military coup among the people then to overthrow even him, the military leader. Right? So these are all uproars of the people of the world. Why? Because the wicked is bearing rule and they're ruling unjustly. The people are waking up. Right? The people are waking up. So this is the second Esdras 15 verse 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. Right, so the modern day sword is the gun. So you have certain Israelite West African nations against other Israelite West African nations. Now they don't recognize themselves as Israelites, like for example Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, right? These are Israelites, but they don't publicly or knownly globally announce themselves as Israelites, because pretty much for the most part they probably don't know it. But what you're seeing right now, you're seeing what? You're seeing Mali versus Guinea, right? And stuff like that. You're seeing the West African nations threatening to go to war with one another. Why? Because you have certain sellout leaders amongst them, like Ghana, Togo, Ivory Coast. These are all ECOWAS nations, pretty much sellouts for the West. Then you have the independent West African nations saying, listen, if you try to invade Niger on behalf of the West, we're gonna go to fucking war. And Nigeria too. Nigeria is another a Tinubu of the president of Nigeria, Tinubu. He's also another sellout, man. And the West are using Tinubu as a puppet. So now the independent nations, they're saying, listen, if you Nigeria, if you invade Niger, we're going to war. We want independency. So the people, our people down there in the continent, they want independence from the West. They're starting to realize their power. They have the resources, and they want out. They don't want any more involvement from the West. They're kicking out France. They're burning down the embassies, and it's gotten to a point of no return. So it's now most likely Esau is going to have to act out of desperation to maintain control of his dominions, because right now we're in the midst of Esau's blessing, the so-called white man's blessing, man. And Esau is going to fight tooth and nail to maintain his blessing, even to the point where he's going to go to fight with Yahweh Shai. That's the amount of pride that this devil has. So I wouldn't put it past Esau to send in European troops down into West Africa in the name of in the spirit of quelling terrorism, because that's what Esau is trying to call it. Our people that's rising up against the president is terrorism, to control the people then. But now, I'll say this. What terrorist group has America gotten rid of? ISIS, Boko Haram, the Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, all these so-called terrorist groups. What terrorist group has America defeated and gotten rid of them? Name one. None of them. Because what America does, they create the problem. They create these terrorist groups. They create these terrorist groups, give them commands and orders to commit, acts of quote-unquote terrorism, and then they use that as a justification to send in their troops into these countries to fight against, to quote-unquote fight against terrorism. But really, what they wind up fighting against is the people. to destabilize the country and take the resources. So they create a scenario, right? They create a problem which elicits a reaction, and then they come in with the solution. Or we gotta send in troops to fight against terrorism. When you the one creating these terrorist groups in the first place. So Esau, in the name of in the spirit of fighting against terrorism in West Africa, he could have sent in EU troops to control the people there. Alright? And most likely kill the people there, because remember, the Lord has to get rid of 2/3 of his people. So you have a large proportion of our people. You have millions of our people in that continent. Millions. So the Lord, by the end of this whole ordeal, the counsel of the Lord is to wipe out the 2/3 of his own people. And the Most High is going to use a so-called white man to do this. Right? So all this is all uproars of the people. Right? And we're going to see how it all rolls out in the time ahead, man. You just got to stay plugged into the news and the goings on in Africa and around the world, so forth and so on. But I just wanted to make it short. But with that,
My friend again. You smoke, my friend.
let me just this is 2nd Ezra 15 verse 16. I was about to just close out, but I forgot that I hadn't finished. Verse 16, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So there shall be sedition, meaning rising up against their governments, or rising up against the powers that be. So we're seeing that. That's prophecy being fulfilled, what's happening over there in the continent. It said, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes. Right, because the president of Mali, they done stuck him in his own palace, pretty much under arrest, while the military took over. So they didn't regard their kings or their princes. There's certain presidential leaders in Africa that's in fear for their lives, like Tinubu. Right, let me read on. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power, meaning they're taking matters into their own hands. The people are taking matters into their own hands, man. Right? So we're seeing that. Right? But anyway, with that, that's all prophecy being fulfilled. That's the whole point of this whole video. With that, hope you're edified. Shalom.